Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Retro.
And it's time for this month's Retro Gamer Show.
Coming up on this month's show, we've got another Games Chart Flashback, but what year will it be?
And I take a look at the Ultimate Nintendo Merch Crate.
I get all nostalgic, remembering an old Commodore 64 favourite.
I give you a glimpse of what's inside and what I picked up when I recently visited one of my favourite retro game shops. But before all of that, Colin, I think you're going to tell us how to play Vectrex games even if you don't own one.
Yeah, that's right, but you do need to own something else.
As many of you will know, and as you can probably tell by the hum, this is the Vectrex, made by Western Technologies and Smith Engineering. It was licensed and distributed first by General Consumer Electronics, GCE, and then by Milton Bradley Company after its purchase of GCE. It was released in November 1982 and then discontinued just 2 years later in 1984. As you can see, the Vectrex is slightly unusual because it has its own built-in vector monitor that, as you can see, displays vector graphics. As you can also see, the Vectrex is actually monochrome, but it does use these plastic overlays which come with the games to simulate colour and some static images on the screen, and it just gets placed in front of the screen like so. The console comes with this game already pre-installed, which is called Mindstorm. It's an Asteroid clone, and there's also around 29 official games released for the console during its lifetime. 2 peripherals were also available for the Vectrex, a light pen and a 3D imager. So here at the Retro Gamer Show, we really love the Vectrex. It's a really nostalgic feeling console. I mean, the vector screen and the buzz from the speaker, every time I turn it on you get feel that buzz, just the hair stand up on the back of my neck. Buying a Vectrex like this today though isn't cheap, and also the games can be quite expensive as well. But what if I was to tell you there is a way that you can actually experience the Vectrex and most of its games today without actually owning one? Although you do need to own one of these or an iPhone, because there's actually an app that works and plays Vectrex games really well. So let's take a look. So the app in question is Vectrex Regeneration, and as far as I'm aware it's only available at the moment for Apple devices. And the app has been put together by the team at Ramp Media Games. So to get the app, all you need to do is go onto the App Store on your Apple device and click on search down the bottom right hand corner and type in Vectrex. Don't worry about the regeneration bit because it just comes up for some reason under Vectrex. And there it is in the top left hand corner. As I've already downloaded the app, it says open next to mine, but normally it would say get, and all you have to do is click get to download it onto your Apple device. At the time of making this video, I think the app is actually free for a short period of time, so if you're lucky enough to get in there you might get it free. Otherwise there's just a small fee to open up the whole app once you've downloaded it. Okay, so on opening the app you'll find yourself in a rather cool retro style themed bedroom. And facing you will be a selection of Vectrex games. To the left will be the actual Vectrex itself. Above it you will find some tabs. That the one in the centre is the controller setup, so you can change the sensitivity of your joystick, etc. The one to the left of that is for the overlay. You can decide whether you want the overlay on or off. And then to the left of that we've got a settings tab with some general settings. Moving round to the left now, and there's some more shelves with a camera, some videotapes and a book on it. First of all, if we take a look at the book, then you will see inside here we have a brief history of the Vectrex. So if you want to squat up on your Vectrex history, you can do so by reading that. Under the book is a Polaroid looking camera, which if we click on that, brings up lots of concept art for the app itself, so you can see what it looked like through various stages of its life, and then obviously how it eventually ended up in the app that we're looking at today. And lastly, moving on to the video cassettes, we have Vectrex commercials in various different languages. That one's French, this one's Finnish, and then we have 3 US commercials, commercial 3, 2, and then US commercial 1. And you can actually spin these around to look at the back. Not much to see, but pretty cool. So let's click play and watch this video.
This is Vectrex, the only video game system with its own video screen. Take it anywhere, just plug it in. It's your own personal arcade. A high-performance system with a built-in game plus a whole collection of arcade cartridges like Scramble, Pole Position, Berserk. So if you're into video games, forget the TV. Get into Vectrex. Light pen and 3D imager available.
So a nice little touch there as it plays the video on the video player and the TV in the room. So let's move back round to the games and choose one to play. Let's take a look at Scramble, one of my favourite games on any system. And it's quite cool that you've got the cover artwork. You can turn it around so you can see the cover artwork at the back. It's nicely reproduced. Ooh, just turn it back round to the front. And then you can see at the top you've got instructions, so you can read the instructions for the game. Again, it's a nice little touch. And then of course if you hit play, it brings it across to the Vectrex and now you can actually play the game. As you can see, the touch controls are at the bottom of the screen, and as far as touch controls go, they work relatively well. That said, as you're concentrating on what's going on the game, it can be possible to occasionally lose exactly where the touch controls are and press the wrong button. If you would prefer to use a proper controller, however, this is MFI compatible, so only MFI compatible controllers should work. So that's Scramble. Let's take a look at another game. And maybe another old favourite of mine, Berserk. So again, you've got the cover art. They've done a really good job on this. I love the way you can take a look around the box and see all the original cover art and the instructions. It's just everything's there. So let's get the game on. I haven't played this in a while, so it could be interesting. So the object of the game is to kill these robots as we go through this electrified maze. And of course we've got to watch out for Otto. He's the villain of the piece. You want to stay out of his way. Actually, here he comes, because he can jump the maze walls and squash you pretty easily. So we managed to avoid him. So let's go onto this screen and see if we can take some more of these robots out. Now they're starting to shoot back. Oh, I didn't quite mean to go across to this next screen, but as we go in, we'll go. Let's go up to the top. Let's see if we can get this guy here. Oh, he shot me. Ah, disaster. So that's a quick look at this app and a couple of the games on it. There's plenty more that you can play, as you can see. It's a great way to experience what the Vectrex has to offer without actually owning one. And I think the team at Ramp Media have done a really good job on this app. And finally, if you'd like to take this app one step closer to playing on an arcade machine or on the Vectrex, then it's also compatible with the iCade if you have one or manage to pick one up maybe on the cheap.
Well, that is one cool app. I've downloaded it onto my iPad. I've noticed there's a few reviews. Some of them are negative from a little while ago saying it kept crashing.
Yeah, and I've read those and seen those, and I've had the app on my iPads for a couple of years now. I've had it on a couple of iPads, and I've never really had any problems with it crashing at all. It's always worked fine, so I don't know what that's all about. Obviously, some people are having a few problems with it, but I think the app's stable enough to recommend it. As I say, I've not had any problems at all.
Well, it's worth checking out. Well, while I play some more Vectrex, why don't you check out this month's Games Chart Flashback?
In this month's Games Chart Flashback, we're going back to a time when Indy was back with another adventure in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Mrs. T made herself comfortable at number 10. Everton beat Watford 2-0 in the FA Cup final. And this lot were number 1 in the UK charts. Yes, it's 1984, a time when the ZX Spectrum and the Commodore 64 were among our top gaming platforms here in the UK. So let's take a look and see what was riding high in their charts.
Right, I'll start off then, Colin, with the chart for the Spectrum from May 1984. At number 5, things are getting a bit manic with Manic Miner. Next up, it's number 4 with Quasimodo in Hunchback. At number 3, watch out for those killer sharks in Scuba Dive. At number 2, loved by many, it's Attic Attack. And number 1, it's time to tidy up in Jet Set Willy.
Wow, that was a pretty good top 5 there for the Spectrum, James. As you know, I'm a Commodore fanboy. My favourite gaming computer of all time is the Commodore 64, so I'm super excited to see what was in the top 5 games for the Commodore 64 in May 1984. So let's take a look. At number 5, we've got the follow-up to Attack of the Mutant Camels. It's Revenge of the Mutant Camels. Yes, Jeff Minter's still in love with those camels. At number 4, it's Mr. Wimpy. Yes, have you ever fancied working in a burger bar? If so, then here's your chance as you help the famous Wimpy mascot make his burgers. At number 3, it's my favourite 80s Mexican gardener, Pedro. And in this game you have to help Pedro protect his plants from various insects and animals, like these ants. So you've just seen him at number 4 in the Spectrum chart, and now he's turned up here, of all places, at number 2 in the Commodore 64 chart with much improved graphics this time. It's Quasimodo in Hunchback. And at number 1, it's someone you've already seen in the Spectrum chart. It's Miner Willy in Matt Smith's Manic Miner. And what a great early platformer this is.
Wow, there were some real retro classics there in this month's Games Chart Flashback.
Yeah, back in the day when no one had heard of Sega really, and Nintendo were busy working on the NES. Now, talking of Nintendo, check this out. Very recently it was my birthday, and one of the presents I was lucky to receive was this, the Nintendo Ultimate Merch Crate by Paladone. Let's take a look and see what's inside. So this is what the merch crate looks like, and there's plenty of spoilers here. You can see everything that's going to be inside. Right, let's get this unboxing underway. The first thing you're going to notice is how well everything is neatly sort of packed inside. It all fits in its unique place. Now, first up, any budding Link adventurer is going to want this. It's a Hyrule themed multi-tool. Next, the edges of your furniture are going to thank you for this. It's the Nintendo Game Boy themed bottle opener. Now, moving back to the Zelda theme, we've got some, as they're called in America, pins, or as we say in good old Blighty, badges. And go careful because these are sharp. Pin them on your bag, pin them on your jacket, pin them on your hat. Show the world how much you love Zelda. Now, we know this looks like a Game Boy, but it's actually a notepad, and it's got a very fancy screen. It's got a lenticular screen which shows Mario jumping over the lion boss from Super Mario Land. It's really nice quality, and if, like me, you struggle writing straight, don't worry, this has got lines. Up next, if you've always wanted to spruce up your rucksack, you need these, the back Pack Buddies. There's 9 to collect, and we don't know which one's inside this packet because we haven't opened it yet. Of course, these ones are Zelda themed, but if Zelda's not your bag, see what I did there? Then there's also Super Mario themed, and again there's another 9 of those to collect. Next up, if you're over the age of 6 and you struggle seeing in the dark, you need one of these. It's the Super Mario Light, and it's got the official coin noise, which sounds just like this. Now, those game collectors are going to find this really useful. It's the Game Boy Money Box, so you can use this to store your loose change, saving up for that next Game Boy title. And just like the notepad, it's got a lenticular screen. Now, last up, it's a good job I learned how to say lenticular, because we have some lenticular 3D Super Mario coasters. Here's what they look like. There's 4 different designs and they feature all of the favourite Nintendo characters. Well, there you have it, our little roundup of the Nintendo Ultimate merch crate. We quite like this item. If you want, you can pick one of these up online for around about £40, but we'd really like to know what you think, so let us know in the comments.
So I think you'll agree that was a pretty cool Nintendo merch crate there. I just hope you've got a big enough backpack, James, for all those backpack buddies.
I must buy a bigger one. But anyway, Colin, I hear you've been reminiscing about a good old Commodore 64 game.
Yeah, it's one of my favourites. Let's take a look at this. Kickstart 2 for the Commodore 64 is a game that brings back many fond memories.
Released in 1987 by Mastertronic, Kickstart 2 was not surprisingly the follow-up to 1985's popular Kickstart. Both games were based on the BBC's motocross trials programme of the same name that were presented by Peter Purvis.
Hello again from Easton Neston and welcome to Junior Kickstart.
Kickstart 2 boasted better graphics than the original. The Kickstart programme's theme tune now played in the background as you raced. And the icing on the cake was that the game now had a built-in construction set that allowed you to build your own courses. The gameplay was both addictive and at times frustrating. You raced your trials bike on a split screen across various obstacles and against a friend or a computer controlled opponent. The challenge was not to only master the controls, but to learn which obstacles needed to be taken slowly and carefully and which ones needed a bit more speed to get across. As I've already mentioned, the game could be very frustrating with your rider being thrown from his bike many times, but with practice things would start to come together, and the feeling of completing the course or at least several obstacles without falling off your bike would be a very rewarding one. I always felt that the game was very clever, in that even though you knew you had to take certain obstacles slowly, you would often catch a glimpse of your opponent forging ahead, and your instinct then would be to try and just speed up that little extra bit. But that little bit would be just enough to send your rider flying over the handlebars. I have many fond memories of playing this game back in 1987, both on my own and with my friends, and it's definitely right up there with my favourite Commodore 64 games of all time. Plus the fact that back then it only cost £1.99 to buy really did make this one a no-brainer.
So that was one of my favourite Commodore 64 games there, Kickstart 2. Have you ever played it, James?
I have on the Amiga. I really liked it. Good game.
Yeah, the Amiga version was a pretty good version. So that's nearly it for this month's show, but before we go, I think you were just going to tell us a little bit about a retro game hunting trip you recently went on.
Yeah, I popped into one of our local retro gaming stores. We haven't got many around here. It's MT Games in Weston-super-Mare, and I popped in while I was down there, just having a break really from work, having a day out. Captured some footage for you now. Unfortunately, it's only on an iPhone, but apologies for that. Didn't have the proper camera with us, but please check it out. Enjoy.
So that looks like a pretty cool shop. I'll have to visit it sometime. And did you pick anything up while you were there, James?
It is a great shop. If you're in Weston, it's a must visit. I got a couple of things, nothing too amazing, but let me show you what I got. Both on the Master System, and the first one is marksman shooting, trap hunt, safari hunt, trap shooting, I should say. So this is one of these
That's a double
very old car.
is it?
Yeah, it's all official, of course. Oh, it's got the manual, of course, lovely and very nicely mint. Didn't have this, so yeah, it's another one off the Master System list, and it's all shooter games. All I can't say Zappa because that's the Nintendo, but yeah, it's all light gun games. And yeah, pretty good. Not played it yet, but great quality. Case is great. Looks mint. Instructions as well. So that's all good. And the other game is Outrun. Didn't have it, amazingly.
Love Outrun.
But, yeah, it's great, isn't it? You've got to own this.
One of my favourite soundtracks as well, Outrun.
Very famous soundtrack. Yeah, again, this is really nice. A little bit of damage on the case, but I'm not bothered.
Easily replaced if you want
And lovely crisp car and crisp manual. So yeah, fantastic. These weren't expensive. Less than a tenner each. So yeah,
not bad.
Good stuff.
So that's about it for this month's show. We'd like to thank everyone who watched last month's show and commented. It was really much appreciated. Most people seem to enjoy it.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing more comments. If you'd like to leave us any below, just what you think of the format and how we're getting on, we'd like to read them.
But until next time, we'll be back next month with another Retro Gamer show. And until then, what have they got to do, James?
Yeah, keep it retro, everyone. Hopefully see you next month.
Keep it retro. Bye.
Game over.